The selection process like? I always imagine it's just a bunch of people in a room throwing things at each other, arguing.
We try to keep people separate, actually, to minimise the arguing. Well, we start the selection in earnest in January, and basically there's myself and Michael Hayden, who's the festival programmer, and then we have a team of about, I keep saying 12, but actually it's more than that now. It's closer to 20 programme advisors, and they all have responsibility for watching and making recommendations of the films that they've seen, and they've all got specialisms in particular areas. So that might be in a national cinema or archive restorations or experimental work. And basically what happens is, I watch lots of films, Michael watches lots of films, they watch lots of films. We look at the films that we're all kind of proposing to include. We don't meet as a selection committee. I mean, some festivals do it that way, but I think what you can get a sort of programme of consensus by doing it that way. For us, it's more the case that the individual programme advisors recommend titles, and of course they all recommend far more than we can possibly screen. So then they have to kind of, prioritise, and then, I will talk with them about what the films are and whether or not they fit with the overall balance of the programme, if you like.
And which films are going to make the biggest impact this year, do you think?
Well, I think in terms of, if you mean impact as in,
Grabbing
physical,
headlines.
Well, I think the Madonna film, obviously, W.E., I mean, because it's directed by Madonna, and also because it's about a very, kind of significant piece of British history that now, thanks to the King's Speech, is much more familiar to people than it was a year ago. So I think that film, definitely will. I mean, our opening and closing night films, 360 and The Deep Blue Sea, will, because, by putting them in that place, we've, given them a sort of privileged position. In terms of noise, of course, the two George Clooney films, will make a lot of noise. But then I think, there's films dotted throughout the programme that will be important. And in a sense, great though it is to have those big high-profile films, one of the best things about the festival is that opportunity to, find things that are much more under the radar. So, certainly things like some of the world premieres in the British section where we've got, new British filmmakers coming through, like Tinj Krishnan. Or, not a kind of first-time filmmaker, but someone like Carol Morley, who's made a really remarkable documentary. I mean, actually, I think Carol's film, Dreams of a Life, will certainly attract a lot of attention because it's such a London story. It's the story of a woman who was discovered in a flat in Wood Green 3 years after she died. And she was only in her early 40s, and she'd kind of, she'd completely sort of dropped beneath the radar. So as a film about, what living in a large city and actually what living in London can be like, where, often we don't know who our neighbours are. I think, that story, I think that film will get a lot of attention in the festival because, it's an amazing story and it's a very London story too. And Carol's a, kind of real kind of British filmmaking talent.